Hello, future medical professionals. Welcome to an exciting journey into the world of NEET biology. Today, we are diving deep into excretory products and their elimination, specifically focusing on the disorders that can affect this vital system. We'll start with the basics, then gradually unravel the complexities, moving from easy to medium, hard, and finally, the hardest concepts, preparing you thoroughly for your competitive exams. Let's begin. Ready to explore the common problems our kidneys can face? Let's simplify the issues and understand what goes wrong in our excretory system. First up are kidney stones, also known as renal calculi. Imagine tiny, hard pebbles forming inside your kidneys. That's what they are. These stones are made of minerals and salts that crystallize when your urine becomes too concentrated. A common type is the calcium oxalate stone, which forms when there's too much calcium and oxalate in your urine. Symptoms can be quite painful, including severe pain in your back or side, and sometimes blood in your urine. Early detection and treatment are key to managing them effectively. Next, we have glomerulonephritis, which means inflammation of the glomeruli. Glomeruli are the crucial filtering units in your kidneys. When they get inflamed, they can't filter your blood properly. This inflammation can be triggered by infections, like a strep throat, or even autoimmune conditions. You might notice swelling in your face, hands, or feet, or even see blood or foam in your urine. Lastly, renal failure or kidney failure is when your kidneys lose their ability to remove waste products. This can happen suddenly, called acute renal failure, or gradually over time, known as chronic renal failure. In severe cases, treatments like dialysis or a kidney transplant become necessary. Now, let's test your understanding with a few quick questions. First, what are kidney stones primarily made of? Second, which part of the kidney is inflamed in glomerulonephritis? And third, what are the two main types of renal failure based on their onset? Take a moment to think about your answers. Alright, let's level up. We'll now delve a bit deeper into these disorders, understanding their types, mechanisms, and broader implications. Let's explore kidney stones in more detail. Did you know there are different types? The most common are calcium stones, like calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate. Then there are uric acid stones, often linked to conditions like gout, and struvite stones, which are typically caused by urinary tract infections. Rare cystine stones have a genetic origin. These stones form when there's an imbalance, either too much stone-forming substance in your urine or not enough inhibitors that prevent crystal formation. Factors like dehydration, diet, and certain medical conditions can increase your risk. Understanding these types is crucial for targeted prevention and treatment strategies. Moving on to glomerulonephritis, let's understand its underlying mechanisms. This condition is primarily immune-mediated, meaning your body's own immune system mistakenly attacks the glomeruli. This can happen through direct antibody attacks or by depositing immune complexes in the filters. This damage compromises the glomeruli's ability to filter blood, leading to key clinical features like hematuria, which is blood in the urine, and proteinuria, meaning protein in the urine, making it foamy. These symptoms, along with swelling and high blood pressure, signal significant kidney damage. Now, let's differentiate between acute and chronic renal failure. Acute renal failure, or AKI, is a sudden, often reversible, loss of kidney function, typically occurring over hours or days. It can be caused by severe dehydration, direct kidney damage from toxins, or blockages in the urinary tract. In contrast, chronic renal failure, or CKD, is a progressive and irreversible decline in kidney function over months or years, with diabetes and uncontrolled hypertension being the most common culprits. Finally, uremia is a severe condition where waste products accumulate in the blood due to failing kidneys, leading to widespread symptoms like fatigue, nausea, and confusion, necessitating urgent intervention like dialysis or a kidney transplant. Time for some medium-level questions. First, name 2 common types of kidney stones. Second, what is the primary cause of damage in glomerulonephritis? Third, distinguish between acute and chronic renal failure in terms of onset. Fourth, what is uremia, and what is its main consequence? And fifth, name 2 common causes of chronic renal failure. Pause and consider your answers. Alright, let's push our boundaries. The hard level will connect theories, analyze complex processes, and explore advanced management strategies. Let's delve deeper into the pathophysiology of renal calculi. Stone formation is a multi-step process involving supersaturation of urine, nucleation of crystals, and their subsequent growth and aggregation. Crucially, certain urinary inhibitors like citrate and thumb-horsefall protein normally prevent this. However, imbalances such as high calcium or oxalate levels or acidic urine can overcome these protective mechanisms. For instance, uric acid stones thrive in acidic environments. Diagnosis often relies on advanced imaging like CT scans, alongside detailed urinalysis and 24-hour urine collections to pinpoint specific risk factors. Understanding these intricate pathways is vital for effective prevention and personalized treatment plans. Now, let's explore advanced forms of glomerulonephritis. Post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, or PSGN, typically follows a streptococcal infection involving type 3 hypersensitivity reactions with immune complex deposition. IgA nephropathy, the most common primary glomerulonephritis, features IgA immune complex deposits and often presents with recurrent hematuria. Rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, or RPGN, is a severe, aggressive form characterized by crescent formation in the glomeruli, leading to rapid kidney function loss. It can be associated with anti-GBM disease or systemic vasculitides. Each type has distinct immunological mechanisms and clinical trajectories, requiring precise diagnosis for appropriate management. Moving to the management of chronic kidney disease, or CKD, it's staged based on the glomerular filtration rate, or GFR, with GFR below 15 ml min indicating end-stage renal disease. Conservative management focuses on slowing progression through strict blood pressure and diabetes control, dietary modifications, and managing complications like anemia and metabolic acidosis. For end-stage renal disease, renal replacement therapy becomes essential. Hemodialysis filters blood externally using a machine and a semi-permeable membrane. Peritoneal dialysis uses the patient's own peritoneal lining as the filter. Finally, kidney transplantation, the preferred treatment, involves surgically implanting a healthy donor kidney, requiring lifelong immunosuppression to prevent rejection. Each option has its own set of advantages, disadvantages, and potential complications. Now, let's tackle the hard questions. First, describe the multi-step process of kidney stone formation. Second, differentiate between PSGN and IgA nephropathy based on their immune mechanisms. Third, how is CKD staged, and what is the significance of GFR below 15? Fourth, explain the fundamental principle of hemodialysis. Fifth, what are the primary challenges associated with kidney transplantation? Sixth, name 2 types of rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. And seventh, what is the main goal of conservative management in CKD? Take your time to formulate comprehensive answers. Are you ready to truly master this topic? In the hardest level, we'll dive into competitive exam depth, exploring molecular insights, engineering aspects, and future frontiers in nephrology. Let's unravel the molecular intricacies of renal calculi. Beyond simple mineral precipitation, specific urinary macromolecules like osteopontin and thumb-horsefall protein play dual roles. Some inhibit crystal growth, while others promote aggregation. Genetic predispositions, such as mutations in oxalate transporters, significantly elevate stone risk. For instance, primary hyperoxalia is a severe genetic disorder. Moreover, Urine pH is a critical determinant. Acidic urine favors uric acid stones, while alkaline urine promotes calcium phosphate stones. Understanding these molecular interactions and genetic factors is pivotal for advanced diagnostic and therapeutic strategies, moving beyond symptomatic treatment to precision medicine approaches. Shifting to the engineering marvels of dialysis, modern dialyzers are sophisticated devices. They utilize hollow fiber membranes, typically made of synthetic polymers, precisely engineered with specific pore sizes to optimize diffusion and ultrafiltration. Biocompatibility is paramount. These membranes are designed to minimize adverse interactions with blood, preventing inflammation and clotting. The fluid dynamics within the dialyzer are meticulously controlled by pumps and sensors, ensuring precise blood and dialysate flow rates and accurate transmembrane pressure for efficient waste removal and fluid balance. The evolution from early, rudimentary dialyzers to today's high-flux systems represents a triumph of biomedical engineering, significantly enhancing patient outcomes and quality of life. Now, let's examine the complex immunological landscape of kidney transplantation. HLA matching, involving highly polymorphic human leukocyte antigens, is crucial to minimize rejection. Pre-transplant cross-matching detects recipient antibodies against donor HLA, predicting hyperacute or acute rejection risk. Rejection itself manifests in various forms: hyperacute, occurring within minutes due to preformed antibodies; acute, mediated by T cells or new antibodies; and chronic, a slow, multifactorial decline. Lifelong immunosuppression, involving a combination of drugs like calcineurin inhibitors, antiproliferatives, and corticosteroids, targets different immune pathways to prevent rejection. However, this comes at the cost of increased susceptibility to infections and certain malignancies, highlighting a delicate balance in transplant immunology. Finally, let's peer into the future of nephrology. The concept of an artificial implantable kidney, integrating microfiltration membranes with living renal tubule cells, promises to replicate complex kidney functions and potentially eliminate the need for immunosuppression. Regenerative medicine, leveraging stem cells, offers hope for repairing damaged kidney tissue and even regenerating functional nephrons. Gene therapy holds potential for correcting genetic defects in inherited kidney diseases like Alport syndrome. Furthermore, the development of wearable and portable dialysis devices aims to revolutionize patient mobility and independence. These cutting-edge advancements underscore a future where kidney diseases might be cured rather than just managed, transforming patient care. Let's tackle the first 5 hardest questions. First, elaborate on the role of specific urinary macromolecules in crystal growth and inhibition of renal calculi. Second, discuss the significance of electron microscopy findings in diagnosing specific types of glomerulonephritis. Third, explain the primary cardiovascular complications associated with end-stage renal disease. Fourth, describe the key engineering principles behind modern dialyzer design and function. And fifth, what are the different types of kidney transplant rejection and what are their underlying mechanisms? Take your time to formulate detailed, comprehensive answers. Now for the remaining 5 hardest questions. Sixth, discuss the immunological basis of HLA matching and cross-matching in kidney transplantation. Seventh, what are the main challenges and potential solutions in developing an artificial implantable kidney? Eighth, explain the role of gene therapy in addressing genetic kidney diseases. Ninth, how has the evolution of dialysis technology impacted patient quality of life? And 10th, compare and contrast the different types of immunosuppressive drugs used in transplantation and their mechanisms of action. These questions require a deep, integrated understanding of the topic. And that brings us to the end of our in-depth exploration of excretory disorders. We've journeyed from basic definitions to complex molecular mechanisms, and even touched upon future innovations. I hope this comprehensive session has not only clarified your concepts but also ignited your curiosity for advanced biological studies. For more such engaging and detailed content, including interactive quizzes and personalized learning paths, visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for continuous updates and to stay ahead in your NEET preparation. Keep learning, keep growing, and excel in your medical journey. Thank you.